And that war is between Games Workshop and your wallet. Look at how much these models cost. 40 bucks for this one guy who's only an inch tall, $60 for a squad of Marines. What if I told you you could spend that 60 bucks on a product associated with your current plastic addiction that happens to be threatening your marriage right now? Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 is the long-awaited sequel to the hack-and-slash third-person shooter from 2011. And it feels just like where we left off. Space Marine 2 has the graphic fidelity and quality of a modern action game, but it feels kind of like a game from the early 2010s. It's surprisingly good, but why? Well, for one thing, the game is overwhelmingly dominated by pure masculinity, gruesome combat, and hordes of space aliens. Massive battles in the background, towering cathedrals and sublime monsters, Gregorian chants and thunderous drums. This entire package appropriately pays homage to this ridiculously over-the-top franchise that glorifies endless carnage in space. And I love it. Join the Space Marines, an elite group of bioengineered super soldiers devoted to defending the Imperium of Man and their god king, the Emperor, all while kitted out in a tank full of armor plating and wielding oversized weapons. Space Marine 2 is gaming done right. Saber Interactive and Focus Entertainment delivered a game complete with a lengthy story, bonus PvE, story challenges, and PvP matchmaking, all tied together by an elaborate career progression system and customization. Brother.
What are you?
Brother! This is why Space Marine 2 is quite popular right now. It cuts the fluff and only gives the player what they want. The only microtransactions in-game are a handful of bonus cosmetics. But what is Warhammer 40k anyway? Warhammer 40k is, as mentioned earlier, an over-the-top, endless space war between high fantasy races and the Imperium of Man. Humanity in this universe is constantly warring with everything that doesn't look like them. 40k fits into the space racism video game market flawlessly, much like Helldivers 2. It appears that space racism has been a massively popular market in the past 6 months. As humanity blows up anything different from them, evil space magic threatens to corrupt humans and turn them into evil space marines for the purpose of doing evil things. This is called chaos. And by this point, 40k fans are already raging at me in the comments because I made the franchise sound pretty dumb. But to be fair, it is pretty dumb, and that's why I love it. 40k to me is just like a universe full of a bunch of cool looking like explosions and tanks and dragons and stuff, and it's just got that hell yeah brother type aura to it, if you know what I mean. The game has a campaign which is actually a lengthy story, and it's pretty good too. It's made even better since it can be played in cooperative mode with your friends, assuming you have any. Otherwise you'll have some bot companions to join you, but friendly AI in this game is actually pretty capable, so you won't be that lonely. I like the set pieces and complete lack of irritating level design. Couple that with no escort missions at all. Your enemy are the Tyranids, which are similar to the bugs from Helldivers or Starship Troopers. They swarm the Marines and their fellow Imperial Guardsmen in tidal waves of just massive hordes. When it comes to the gameplay, there's shooting, which is straightforward, and then there's melee combat. Melee is a lot more nuanced, encouraging Marines to enter the fray and commit to non-stop brutality. Hacking and slashing recovers recently lost health, and enemies will attempt to strike at the player, casting different colored glows around them. Blue glows prompt a parry from the players to counter an enemy's attack with a block, which will partially refill their rechargeable shields if timed right. Orange glows must be dodged entirely and cannot be blocked or parried. And when enemies are weakened near death, brutal takedowns can be performed that also recharge players' shields. Red crosshairs on enemies prompt the player to pull the trigger and aimbot shot an enemy to gain a little more shield back as well. It's kind of interesting that the game takes these rather simple mechanics and cobbles them together into an interesting mesh that keeps the fighting not boring, but actually quite interesting. So interesting that the tutorial mission itself doesn't even really feel like a tutorial. It's actually really fun. The game is just straight awesome right out the gate. The representation of the Imperial Guard in the game too is much appreciated, and just like the tabletop, they all get annihilated on first contact with the enemy. The armies of the Imperium got a lot of justice here, and so did the Space Marines. This game straight up oozes fan service. Like, the Space Marines themselves are so absolutely masculine. They only pretty much speak in 4 different words, including brother, Xenos, Emperor, and Heresy. And speaking of this rather simple language, I saw some complaints that the story of this game is shallow. I agree. But that's honestly because Warhammer 40k's lore is not very expressive or complicated. 40k is just raw testosterone and that's it. And I'm fine with the way the game resembles it. It sticks with the source material, unlike a lot of game representations in media and other games nowadays. One thing that struck me as wild about this game is how long the missions are. This campaign is not a short one, and on harder difficulties it is absolutely grueling. Plus there's a whole collection of weapons to choose from, most of which are different flavors of bolter. A bolter, for the uninformed, is a yeet cannon that launches 90 caliber bricks of freedom, capable of atomizing mini targets. As for the variety, we got bolt rifles, heavy bolters, auto bolters, bolt pistols, heavy bolt pistols. I can't even remember them all, actually. Like 5 guns in this game are not a form of bolter, and this makes sense. Space Marines do love their bolters. Now we enter a short spoiler section, so skip to the timestamp if you don't want it spoiled. There's a couple surprises in the game. After the tutorial, Titus, our player character, is upgraded to a Primaris Marine in an effort to push Game Workshop's new Primaris Marine sets that cost over $100. After fighting the Terminids, our boy Titus and his battle brothers search for a powerful artifact. Then, Tzeentch's Chaos forces arrive to fight both the Marines, Guardsmen, and Tiramisu alike. Sure, to find the artifact and claim it before the Marines do. Jeez, it gets really hard reading a script. I'm gonna be honest with you, you have no idea. Tzeentch's Thousand Suns Chaos faction basically worships LSD. Mind games and psychedelia are their tools of the trade here. Rubric Marines teleport around, and the map itself warps as visuals blur under the illusions of chaos. The Chaos and Tyranids in this game have this interesting dichotomy where the Tyranids take on mostly mindless swarms that attempt to overwhelm you, while Chaos is all about trickery and using tankier units. Both factions appear in operations as well, but the Tyranids are far more fun and satisfying to fight. As the story progresses, a lot of brotherhood is demonstrated by the Space Marines in your squad, and as the game closes, there's a scene that I have honestly come to love from this game. Brothers, this is just the start. Custom Marines are playable in the following other modes that come with the game: Operations and Endless War. Operations is like a continuation of the campaign, but with less scripted events and more of a focus on multiplayer. But these missions are, much like the campaign, pretty high quality and fairly lengthy. In both non-story modes, your team of 3 selects one of 6 diverse classes. Those include, I play Call of Duty and I want an assault rifle please, Titanfall grappling hook,
Truck freak crazy ass, the Fighter.
Each Marine is customizable, like fully customizable. Each armor piece can be changed and painted with a different color, that some of which have cheeky names pointing to the Games Workshop paints that you can use to paint their overpriced models, the paints of which are $5 each. Like, can you believe this economy? The inflation is out of control. Come on, Obama. You can color each part of the armor and spend in-game credits to unlock new colors in the year 2024. The drip-offs in this game are insane.
I still like the bronze.
The bronze looks really good. The Bronze Age. Yeah, he plays for the Lakers.
Okay. Okay.
Career progression is vast in Space Marine 2. Upgrade your weapons, unlock perks for your Marines and weapons, and honestly a whole lot more. PvP is a lot of fun too, but it is perhaps the weakest link of Space Marine 2. Granted, it is great for hopping in for quick matches of competitive shooting and slashing, with one team of Space Marines and the other Chaos Marines, but shipping a PvP mode with 3 maps is straight up criminal. The roadmap does mention new PvP maps and operations missions coming in 2025, but Dude, 3 maps at launch is pretty bare bones and makes the mode feel half-baked sometimes. There's only 3 game types as well, but I will say, Space Marine 2 has done the bare minimum, which a mind-boggling amount of games have failed to do in the past 4 years. It shipped with Team Deathmatch at launch. Wow. Incredible. Also, there's like no desync. The servers aren't completely shot to hell. Each player specializes as their role in the classes that I mentioned earlier when I was talking about operations. They do carry over between the 2 modes, which creates this really cool teamwork dynamic. The multiplayer kind of reminds me of Gears of War, so if you enjoy that and you want to run around like a hulking brute that looks like he's honestly waddling around like a toddler, this game is probably going to be more your bag. In all honesty, if you enjoy Warhammer at all, you should probably get this game, and it has relatively few bugs too. In like tons of hours of playing, I've only had a single crash. Could it be? A nearly bugless, mostly complete game shipped in 2024 with like a modern day graphics budget in the genre of action shooter? This game has hit the top 10 most active games on Steam as of late, and it's not hard to see why. I have one more note to make before I get into this game's cons. Space Marine 2, especially on harder difficulties, is very challenging, and there's even a plethora of really enjoyable and mostly fair to fight boss fights in this game too. Though fair to fight doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be easy. All this considered, there is a bit of a catch. I know I've sung this game's praises for not pursuing aggressive monetization and the lack of a battle pass completely, as well as the general quality of this game coming out in a year where we have a lot of stagnation in the industry, but I have to be completely honest. While this game is awesome, especially with friends, replay value is lacking here. Sure, the campaign and operations mode are pretty long, and you can replay each mission on harder difficulties which add new challenges, and in operations case, change up the missions by adding some new encounters, as well as dealing out greater rewards when you beat the missions. But PvP only has 3 maps and 3 modes, and this is a shame because PvP is generally really fun in this game. And these maps do get old pretty fast. Saber did put out a roadmap for their plans for the first year of this game, and I gotta say, I got a really bad taste in my mouth for roadmaps after what happened with Halo and other games that failed to deliver enough content. But if they manage to actually fulfill this roadmap, this game could be pretty legendary. The roadmap does look very promising, with a new Horde mode and more operations and PvP maps coming in the future, but the wait will cause this game to get stale a lot faster. Also, I mentioned earlier, it's quite bugless, and I mean this for me. A lot of players are encountering problems even getting past the first cutscene, facing consistent crashing and being forced to go down a list of troubleshooting that sometimes remains fruitless for players on PC. Additionally, I have to amend my previous point, I have recently faced some networking bugs, and I did face some graphical issues in the campaign, but I will say the networking bugs seem to have been caused, for some reason, by having my game open with my video editor, DaVinci Resolve, at the same time. And those frame stuttering graphic issues in the campaign that I was facing were fixed by updating the drivers in my GPU. So there are fixes you can do for many of the small problems, but if you're facing a bigger one, I wish you the best of luck getting this game to run. But if you can get this game to run on PC, which most have, then it will run pretty much flawlessly. With everything this game offers, from the spectacle of it all, and an enjoyable campaign and PvE mode with plenty of missions to enjoy, and a fun little side PvP mode, plus tons of career progression already in-game, and absolute loads of fan service or 40k fans, I'd say I still recommend this game. It is very enjoyable and has a lot to offer here, especially if you love 40k and its universe. Brothers, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.